Hello, hello. Uh,
Hello.
my name is William Burnett, and we're here with Michelle Erfer, and
Hi.
she's our next guest on Talk Video, the latest cool music podcast.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
So, just a little bit of an introduction before we get started. Those of you who don't know Michelle from the party scene, um, I don't know how. If you live in New York City or if you live in Brooklyn, and for the past 15,
15
20
years.
years,
Yeah.
you've seen her at a party, and uh, she's been involved in the music scene. I don't know, whatever you call it, and she's been to all those parties, and she could tell you how it was and who was there and all that stuff. And somehow at this point, it has brought her to become a booking agent for what is it, like, I don't know,
For the bunker.
for the Bunker, New York,
Yeah.
which you're booking shows for a lot of current DJs and live acts.
Yeah, from Mike Servito, Justin Cudmore, Eris Drew, Patrick Russell, Antennas, a lot of people.
All
Abby Echeverry.
All-star cast.
Yes, mostly people we know. Derek Plislayko, Brian Kasanek.
And
Sorry if I forgot you.
yeah, that's why
There's a lot of you.
it's hard to mention names because then you got to keep going
Keep
once
going.
you start.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. We'll put it.
Hi.
We'll write it underneath or something afterward. So you're a booker now, but I just want to. I just thought that. Okay, so I showed you 2 episodes before that, so you know a little bit about this. You saw the Veronica one and the Lego Welt one. So my idea is basically to reiterate is that I want to have a conversation about music, and I want people to watch it and feel like they're involved and and they learn something about the history of whatever the thing is that we're involved in now, because there's it's something.
Yeah.
There's not really a name for it, but it's going on, and we've been participating, and you've been a part of it. So I just was interested in your perspective, like where you came from, and what do you think about it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know you, but the first time I remember seeing you was you were. This always goes back to music forums
Yeah.
for me. Is that
We were
your
forum.
name on the forum, Michelle? She's like the only person that uses her real name. It's like really punk,
I don't anymore, though.
No, you switched it
The
up.
internet got too big to be my real name on there.
People are after you. So I would see you, and you would. I just remember you asking, like if somebody was playing, you'd be like, "Where's the party? I'm gonna go."
Yes.
And then
'Cause,
I don't know.
yeah.
I can't remember the first time I met you in person. Maybe at DMF or something
I
in
think
2004 or
I was actually
5.
trying to remember this because
Yeah.
the first time I remember actually really interacting with you was possibly at Fuse in 2005.
Fuse in. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
That was the in between.
That was in between when Kevin Saunderson did the whole festival in Detroit. And all the Dutch guys got some kind of epic grant. And I feel like Scott Zacharias was involved and some other people. Sharif.
Yeah, Sharif Zawadeh.
So they had, like Lego Well, Org Electronique, I think Bangkok Impact. Everybody who was kind of in that, like, don't call us Electro Clash scene, which we at the time we called it third wave electro, I believe. Will, help me out here.
Yeah.
But me and my wife were really big fans of all that music, so we made the trip to Detroit, even though I wasn't super interested in the festival itself.
But it's still free then, right?
It was $25.
Oh, okay. That was the first
It
year.
was the first year they charged, and everyone was extremely upset about it. But I feel like for $25, it was like a crazy bargain. It was like 12 hours of music a day, and almost all of it was actually good. Kevin Saunderson did an amazing job. All of the Detroit, legends played. But I was mostly in the little stage over by the water that's to the left of the main stage, which is where the whole Dutch contingent was
It
kind of
was
like
Alexander Robotnik.
yeah, Alexander Robotnik. They were all posted up there
Yeah.
just for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, it was
Just rocking it with live sets and DJ sets. I think it was really one of the most epic.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that was one of the that was like a big year. That I remember that was like the first year. Like Convection was there,
Convection played,
and
yes.
Stinkwork was there, Minto, a lot of the Texas guys. And the first time I ever met Sean Rudiman, some of the Pittsburgh people like Juwan and I don't know.
John Allen.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting people now too.
Yeah,
but
I mean, so many
the whole
people.
Pittsburgh guys were there. It was like a weird time where we all met.
Yeah.
But
Because we all knew each other from the internet.
Yeah.
Because at that point we were mostly like shut-ins.
But you couldn't have like, you couldn't like go check out and see what they look like.
No,
on
there
their
wasn't.
MySpace page or Friendster or whatever.
I never did MySpace. I always thought it was kind of for posers.
I never did Friendster.
Yeah, I never did Friendster. I was really suspicious of social networks from the beginning because they seemed too centralized to be secure. So even my Facebook, I've set it up with like a standalone email address that is not tied to my real email address in any way, which is...
They still know who you are.
They still know who I am. But they try to get me to be friends with myself, my real self, which I'm like, how do you even know me? But I think I've been tagged in other people's photos over the years, so I think that's how they think I should be friends with me, or possibly via Instagram. Anyway, we didn't really know anybody.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all kind of like awkwardly mingling.
Yeah.
Like, what's your username on the forums?
It's pretty dorky,
But it was so fun.
yeah. But I don't know. So let's
Yeah.
let's take it back further than that. So you grew up you're originally from
I'm from suburbs of Philadelphia, deep hardcore suburbs.
deep Philly.
Like malls and strip malls. Like I spent a lot of time in parking lots as a child, as a young teen. A lot of my mom used to call the payphone at the Roy Rogers parking lot and be like, "Where's Michelle?" And like the skater kids would be like, "Michelle." Like people today don't remember, or didn't experience that. But when our parents wanted us, they had to call the payphone at the parking lot where we were hanging out. Did
What?
your parents have to do that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I was a pretty good boy. I think
I was not.
Or I would just.
I was not good.
We didn't. Or I think where I lived, it was maybe a little bit not. I'm from a large city. I'm from San Antonio, but where I lived was a little bit more rural. So you would go to someone's house and you would have like, you would just throw rocks at whatever and like swim in the swimming hole, or it was a little more rural. That word is.
I mean, that sounds good because
Yeah.
we used to like throw ketchup at the window of the Rogers because the manager there hated us. And we used to like raid the snack bar, the like free toppings bar thing, like all the condiments.
So yeah, we had a Taco Cabana. We used to skateboard behind it, and
Yeah.
we went in and out of favor with them. Some days they would like us,
Oh, they never liked
and
us.
others days they wouldn't. But we're supposed to be talking about music. So this
So
is
there was music involved.
yeah.
Mostly hip hop and like grunge music.
And what year? This is 90s.
Yeah, this was the mid
But
'90s.
what about before that? Like as a kid, it was just like normal
before-
MTV, the mall.
Yeah, it was MTV. Like my parents do not like music. They're
And y-
not interested in music.
And did you have older brothers and sisters? Younger?
I have a younger sister, and she's
You don't talk to her. No, I'm just kidding.
I have a nephew, so I have to talk to her sometimes. But she's actually really into ska, and she remains into ska. I was also into ska.
That's too bad.
Yeah, she likes it
But
though.
there's some
you
good. I
know.
like the specials.
Pick it up, pick it up.
Yeah,
Pick it up.
yeah.
Skankin'.
Specials. Even Operation Ivy.
I love Op
they're
Ivy
s- they're
still.
sup-
There's-
yeah, they're good.
But
Right.
I used to like I would, it was like I would find random tapes and be like, oh, this appeals to me. Like I found like X-Ray Specs that way.
Yeah. That's
A lot of like weird no wave stuff because we used to all hang out at this record store called Repo Records,
okay.
which was close to Bryn Mawr College.
Okay.
And that's where you'd find out about shows, and like the college kids that worked there were very surly. But we bought like 99-cent tapes. I bought an Art of Noise tape. Like, I would just buy tapes that I liked the
The artwork.
artwork. And Art of Noise, I was like, I literally have no idea what the fuck this is.
And so this is like
I was like
middle
14.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like
maybe
14, high school.
To high school, and so you're starting. You
Mm-hmm.
you find a record store, and it's not the one in the mall.
No, we used to like steal from the one in the mall
Yeah.
because that was like $16 for a tape, and we were like, oh no. And they'd have like the big thing that was like supposed to stop you from stealing it, but it didn't actually set off an alarm.
The plastic.
Yeah, and then we kind of like wrestle it open and
Break the case.
break it and stuff. So I usually was not the direct thief. I usually profited off the thieving of others. That's why I'm an agent now.
Mm.
But
And so that was pretty normal
that was normal teen stuff.
normal teen stuff.
Yeah.
And then you find this record store, and it's
It's a scene.
It's
It's like a hang zone.
this
There's-
is 1989.
no.
90?
I'm 41, so this was 1993 or 1994
Already,
probably.
Okay. So I'm 42. We're the same age,
Yes.
pretty much.
So 78, 88. Yeah, so it would have been like 92 actually,
You found the record store with the
with the cool stuff.
with the people that were mean to you.
Yes. So we of course wanted to be there all the time to show them how cool we were. And I used to hang out at this like kind of like grunge store called Zipperhead, which had like a outlet in our suburb, and it was all like they had a tarantula, and it was all kind of like this mishmash, like how Trash and Vaudeville was with like punk and goth and
Zipperhead.
yes.
Oh, is it still there?
I don't know. It's definitely not in the suburb, but they might still have one on South Street in Philly.
They have an online store.
They turned into a Hot Topic. So this is before Hot Topic,
Zipper.
and you had to go to like a weird store to buy like boots,
And you would get like a what
Doc Martens, and
or what's that hair colored called?
Manic Panic.
Manic Panic hair dye.
Yeah, and we all wore Converses, and we would like write the names of the bands that we liked on our shoes and our backpacks, like Nirvana and stuff, and Pearl Jam. But I saw all those bands. Like, I went to everything.
Yeah.
I did a zine that was called Generic Randomness.
Generic randomness. Sounds
you
very
had-
very relevant.
Yeah, it was extremely relevant.
No, I mean, like now, like that would be the title of something.
you had to have a zine if you wanted to like meet people.
But how do well your parent? You said your parents didn't like you said your mother. I don't know if
My parents are just not really involved with music. They go to like Broadway musicals. That just sounds
that's
horrible.
music. That's music too.
Ugh.
So, but you started going to see
My
shows.
parents would drive me downtown all the time, and they were just extremely permissive. I'm like, what were you thinking? I used to go to these like punk houses, and they'd be like, okay,
Pick
we're
you up at
driving you there.
10:30.
No, they would like pick me up at like midnight. My dad was just like, oh, okay. I mean, he's like a native Philadelphian. I'm third generation Philadelphian, so they're just like, whatever, I'll drive you to some weird place.
They're like, oh, she's got friends. Look, honey.
Yeah, they were happy I had friends. Yes, I think that is probably true.
Wow.
'Cause I didn't for a while. Yeah,
And so this is it sounds pretty cool. Like you're going.
it was cool. It was super fun.
Are you still friends with any of those people from that time?
I'm friends with my gay best friend from high school.
Yeah.
He still lives in the city, and we have like
In
lunch
in
every
Philly
2
or
months.
in New York?
I mean, I'm sorry, he lives in New York,
Okay.
in Brooklyn. So we still have lunch every like 2 months.
Oh, that sounds.
Yeah, most of those people, I kind of like left that town and just never talked to any
Yeah.
of them again. Although some of them are like bookers and people who are entertainment writers for Philly News and stuff. Like a lot of them are still involved in
Music.
which
Yeah.
is interesting.
And are they? Did they
Mm-hmm.
change their taste, or they kind of stayed in the same? Different.
They stayed more in rock music. Philly was like always a big rock and
Yeah.
roll town, so I think they just kept with that trajectory.
And so, what you said you said Nirvana, Pearl Jam, but you were
Mhm.
also going to these like smaller shows. What do you remember
Yeah.
any of the bands you saw
Yeah,
then, or
I see like
Discord
Bouncing
stuff?
Souls
so
a
you're
lot.
heavy ska still.
Not anymore.
Mighty Boss
Yeah,
Tones.
I used to. No, I didn't like that. I used to
Yeah.
see like Mephistopheles.
Woo.
It was like a lot of ska.
Wow, I thought that was like a Boston thing.
No, Philly Boston Continuum.
No,
I
they're-
mean, Philly is cooler, but the Philly Boston
I do agree.
Continuum is a thing.
What does that mean? They're like kind of similar.
Well, it's like I don't know. They like ska. they're like East Coast cities that are not New York. So, it's pretty easy to be in a band. Music education then was quite good. So everyone I knew played instruments badly, at least, but they played them, and some of them got better. I see this band called the Abreacts a lot, which was very screamy punk music. I think they had a woman was in there. So I was.
But what about you? There wasn't. You're closer to DC. There was no like Discord, like Fugazi. You weren't into that.
It was too masculine. I was more into like Bikini Kill,
Yeah.
K Records. Like I used to buy all those K Records, like Go Sailor.
Yeah.
Tsunami was a band I was really into.
Unrest or something.
Unrest.
What was that?
Bratmobile. I saw all that stuff in like tiny
Yeah.
places.
That time those bands
Mhm.
toured so hardcore.
They would come to Philly all the
yeah,
time.
they play. Some would
Mhm.
play in San Antonio, but we would drive to Austin and see them. It's the
Mhm.
same '90s time.
Mhm.
I remember I didn't get to go, but I wanted to. My parents were a little more strict, but Josh,
Mhm.
I've talked about him before. We grew up together. He's the booker at Good Room. He and another friend they went all the way to Gilman Street to see Bikini Kill.
I mean, Bikini Kill
and
was
like
so
Green Day and all that. It was
I
it
saw
was at the
Green
same
Day
time.
so many
Yeah, it
times.
was like the same time where they were in the same level,
Mhm.
Bikini Kill and Green Day for a
Mhm.
while. And I like got there like the week after, and I was like,
Oh,
got to see
no.
like Pitch Blend or something.
I don't know what that one is.
It's just some other whatever.
Some band.
Some
90s band.
One of these. They cross their arms and like give you dirty looks.
Oh yeah.
So that was the '90s. What
Mhm.
when did you discover the boom boom? Or were there
Techno?
raves?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting sort of weird thing about that time in Philly was that the venues were the same, and in a weird way, we would just go to the venues,
Yeah.
and like one night it would be
Josh Wink or something.
Josh Wink. Yeah, those were my first parties. Where like Josh Wink used to have this thing called like hardcore ecstasy rave entertainment, which when I was a kid, I actually didn't even know what that meant. I just
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is just like what's happening at this like weird space, and so I would go and I'd be like, I don't really like these people very much because they're like weird and not talking to anyone, and they're all just sort of like
Dancing.
dancing. And then I was a little too. I think I was just too young for it. Like it didn't really resonate.
You didn't realize that they're taking drugs.
No,
But Josh Wink is sober though, isn't he?
he is. Yeah.
It's weird.
But at the time, I don't know if he was. I don't know. The scene then was so steeped in that, and
Yeah.
my parents wouldn't let me stay out all night. Is the other thing. Like
Yeah.
those are like the people. I wouldn't sneak out of my house or.
Yeah.
You know, even though I didn't really get grounded or anything ever, I just was like, it's too much trouble. Like the shows I really like end at like 11,
Yeah.
so I'll just stick with those. But I remember I saw The Orb, and that was really great with Future Sound of London in maybe like 1995 or something,
That's pretty cool.
which was great. They had really, I mean, at the time they had really cool visuals. I'm sure if I saw them now, I wouldn't be super impressed.
Who knows? I don't know.
It's like dolphins and shit. I was like, wow, this is like so mind blowing. They're showing dolphins on the screen, and the dolphins are going into the clouds
they're
in a
upside
fractal.
down.
Yes, there's two dolphins now, but they're like mirrored. So I went to that, and that was pretty
But
cool.
somehow that was an easier gateway from ska to whatever.
Yeah, well,
because-
ska was just so corny, and
Yeah.
once I started to was exposed to more options in terms of entertainment. Like I went to college outside New York, and I met like more sophisticated kind of like prep school kids that were like into all kinds of fucked up shit because they
Yeah.
were like rich and they could like afford blow and like were just
Jeez.
super fucked up kids. But
What
they,
was- so you,
You know?
left Philly and you went to college.
I went to college.
So you got okay grades. You weren't a terrible.
I got great
child.
grades. Yeah.
Excellent grades. And
Excellent. I left school early because I couldn't take it anymore, and I went to college that
So
would take
you-
me.
You went a year early.
I went a year early because my gay best friend left, and I was like despondent because he used to drive me everywhere in his purple minivan.
You're not allowed to say this person's name, or
David.
oh, so we can refer to David.
Hi,
as
David.
not your gay best friend.
I know, but you know, it's like the trope of like everyone having their gay best friend in high school. And
Well, now we know his name is David.
David, bless him for
All right,
driving me
all right.
around.
You want to say R.I.P., but
No.
he's not dead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
RIL, rest in life.
Okay, all right. But so hello, David.
Hi,
I hope
David, we
you're-
love you.
I hope you get to listen to this sometime.
Oh God, he has some stories. I'll tell you.
So David left.
David left.
Did you go with him to where he went, or
No.
you went somewhere else?
I went somewhere else, and then I met all of these just like
Wh-
crazy.
Where did you go?
I went to Sarah Lawrence.
Where's that?
It's in Westchester County,
Westchester.
New
PA.
York. Yeah, no,
Oh,
Westchester, New York. It's like in
Westchester.
Bronxville, like Yonkers.
So
It's-
there's two Westchesters. There's like the Westchester, PA,
PA.
and then there's the Westchester, which is
Uh,
above. It's like up. We call it
it's-
upstate,
it's
but
by
it's
Yonkers.
but it's just right above
It's
Yonkers.
really close. And so my best friend in college was named Mariah, and somehow she was still grounded in college.
And her parents are 200 miles away or something.
No, her parents were in the city, and they used to like send a car for her every weekend to like make sure she came home. And like it was
Wow.
Yeah, this is so crazy.
Mariah, come on.
Hi, Mariah. So I used to like catch a ride to the city with Mariah and like hang out in her apartment. And we used to like, I don't even know. We went to like all this weird stuff, and we saw Outkast did like this hip hop thing with the Black Eyed Peas, and we just used to do all this weird random New York stuff in the 90s. Like I got really into hip hop.
Yeah,
We
but
used to hang out on St. Mark's and buy tapes there as well. Oh, there's mixtapes. And so we used to go to Wetlands
yeah.
a lot, which we did. She was into ska too. Like the way that we met was we both had ska patches on our bag, and we were like, "Do you like ska?" And she was like, "Do you like ska?" And then I was like, "Well, I'm kind of like transitioning away from that." She was like, "Me too," but I still have the patch on my bag. And then we were like, "Well, let's go to these ska shows at Wetlands," and then we would also go to hip hop, and then I got kind of more into hip hop.
It was pretty open-minded time. It
Yes.
feels like this is a
There was not as much
Bill
like
Clinton era.
yeah, there wasn't as much like scene stratification or divisions when I was young. Like I just felt like people used to hop around and like
Yeah.
you were friends with kids who were into totally different stuff. Or I don't know if it's still like that, but
I don't know what kids like. Who knows? Who knows? Probably it's probably still pretty. I see all kinds of kids hanging out together. They don't
That's
seem
good.
to have. They're not
Mhm.
like homogenous or whatever.
it's like younger adults that become homogenous.
Yeah,
I
I don't know what. I don't know what's going on.
So yeah, I used to do that, and we used to have like all these like hip hop friends that would come down from Harlem, who
But you say so come down from so you were
They would-
she
we-
had an apartment in the city,
yeah, her parents' apartment.
and her parents would go out of town and you go there.
No, her parents would be there monitoring us because she was grounded. But we would always just be like, "Okay, we're leaving, like by the back stairs of your building."
Oh, Mariah.
Mariah's
she
a
sounds like,
pistol.
sounds like trouble.
I think you maybe have met her. I'm not sure. She's a party girl, so you maybe have met her at a party.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows?
Yeah, it
It's been
wouldn't
a
be
long
something you
time.
would remember. But so Mariah really taught me like the ins and outs of like New York City, like all the way that you do stuff, like how to take the bus, how to take the subway. Like she was really my
How to sneak into the club.
how to sneak into shit. Yeah, we went to like all these weird like
How to
night
get in for
clubs.
free.
Yes. Well, first of all, you had to be a girl
Yeah.
and preferably underage. So she's like had that on lock.
Whoa. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So you're starting. So this becomes your introduction to New York City,
Yeah.
and you're at Sarah Lawrence, which is just above.
Mhm.
You know, what? It's a not even 45-minute
Not-
train
yeah,
ride.
it's like a 40-minute train ride,
Yeah.
the maximum.
And so you're
Mhm.
you're at school. What are you studying at school?
Ooh, boy.
Just getting by.
Getting by. Maintaining. I'm studying how to maintain.
To let your parents leave you alone. or
Yeah.
something.
hmm
And
Yeah, I was studying like gender. I don't know. All that crap.
gender. What is-
Apparently, it doesn't exist. So my degree is worthless.
well, that's a deeper discussion. That
Yes.
gender doesn't exist, so your degree is
My
worthless.
degree in gender is worthless. So I mostly studied how to be like a schmoozer and how to go places and have a good time no matter where.
So you grew up a little bit.
I grew up.
I don't know what you learn in college. It seems like unless you're like learning these
Mhm.
really practical.
How to do laundry, how to cook,
Yeah, I mean, they don't. So
how to hate your roommates.
Who really is benefiting from college? Like, there somebody's making.
Colleges.
Well, they
Sally Mae.
besides the businesses,
Yeah.
like what kids, maybe an engineer is learning some
Computer
math
science.
people.
Math.
I guess you learn probably of your vocabulary expands.
You are
History.
forced to read books.
Yeah, if you read books, I guess you're.
Yeah.
but
I
I'll-
read all the books
Mm,
they
that-
asked me to.
That's good.
It was my part of the bargain. So
Probably made you who you are today.
it did in many ways.
And so
actually.
and so you're sneaking down this. You're introduced to New York City club
Yes.
life.
I'm grounded with my friend. Voluntarily grounded.
And where did they live? Just like
Her parents lived on the Upper West Side. We used to mostly hang out in St. Mark's and in Brooklyn Heights. And
yeah, we had this discussion because you saw.
Mhm.
We can. This is an aside. Is that when I showed you the Veronica one, we had this whole like dojos
yes.
discussion. How dojos is gross.
Dojos.
And just the I didn't. I don't know if I told you that, but I took a screenshot of that tweet and I sent it to Veronica with the burger.
Was she like, oh my God, I
No,
missed
she was
the-
like, "That was my favorite."
that was everyone's favorite. This hijiki burger. It was legendary. I hated it, but everyone was like, we got to go to Dojo and get the like it was like $4.25
yeah, which
for
is,
a plate of vegetarian food, and everyone under like 23 lived off of this
Yeah.
for like 10 years. Yeah.
R.I.P. dojos.
Yeah.
But their Twitter is still. It's not live or
No.
I don't think they have any.
They're
way-
on Twitter.
But
I
there's
followed
the
them.
history is there.
Yes.
So if you want to see what we're talking about,
The hijiki burger. You could just Google it. There's a lot of people online being like, does anyone have the recipe for the Dojo?
so you went pretty deep on it.
Oh yeah, I went into a straight up Dojo's internet hole.
So there's some overlap here between
Mhm.
I some other people that I showed the episode to. I'm trying to get Morgan Geist to come on here, and I showed him
Mm.
one, and he's like, I'm on the internet too much, and I showed him the thing,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, her childhood sounds exactly like mine.
Yes, that New York City.
Yeah, you go to
youth,
St. Mark's and
You
whatever.
just sit on a stoop and like talk with randos.
Yeah, and you go to
Shoot
whatever
the
those
shit.
record stores are, and do-
Yeah, I mostly went to that. Like, remember on it was on like 3rd Avenue. There was like that cubby hole full of like hip hop mixtapes.
oh, was it right above St. Mark's? Or
No, it was like at ground level. It's like it's just where St. Mark's and 3rd Avenue intersect, and it's like right on 3rd Avenue, right where like the Continental was. To
No,
the,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying north when I say
oh
above.
yeah, not upstairs. Yeah,
Yeah.
to the right of the Continental, and there was like a dude in there.
I remember that.
And he
Yeah.
would have like such good tapes. I'm so sad I can't find them anymore. Like it was all like Method Man, Redman freestyles, like Tony Touch,
Yeah, that's weird. I
DJ
forgot
Red
about that.
Alert. Like used to get. They were $5. I used to get so many of those.
And
Reggae.
do you keep them still or?
I have like
No idea where they
one.
are
I have
yet.
like one, and you know, honestly, when you look on eBay, those tapes are like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, we get them sometimes at the thing.
Oh, please tell me if you
And
do.
no,
I
I mean,
miss them.
they people, either some of the guys I work with will just throw them away because they don't whatever, and then or some people will come in and buy them that appreciate it.
They're
And
so
they're
they
probably
were
the
so
ones
great.
selling them on eBay.
Yeah, I'm sure for like $100.
Yeah. What a weird. It's weird that you forget about all these weird little.
When that place closed, I was so sad.
It
That was one of the
what's
things
there's like a pizza place there now or something or
it's not the pizza place now. It's just
what is that there?
there's like it was like a stupid Korean taco place for a while. It's one of these like NYU food places that just
Yeah,
keeps
yeah.
turning over every 2 years into something gimmicky and
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Poke bowl.
Yeah, it's probably Poke Bowl now. I haven't been over there in ages because there's like a whole new building.
Yeah,
It's unrecognizable and I feel like ancient.
There's no I don't know. I don't need any like vape cartridges. I don't know what else
No.
what else they sell over
Oh
there
yeah,
now.
I think it actually might be a vape store that has expanded because there was always a bodega on the corner and now it's like larger.
What's on St. Mark's now? I don't even know.
There's a lot of like weird gimmicky dessert places. You know,
Ugh,
like I don't even know. I don't go to any of it.
frozen yogurt.
Frozen yogurt. Yeah, I mean St. Mark's used to be that. There used to be that like Coney Island High was there.
I don't remember.
Anyway, there used to be like a lot of cool stuff and hangout zones and like runaways and stuff.
So that was your college. So
That was in college.
but was there any like scene in Sarah Lawrence? Like was there
No.
little house shows or any?
I had a student run space my last year that I literally turned into like a private party palace for me and my friends.
So you just played whatever music you wanted.
Yeah,
and-
we
and-
actually used to play like the old collected records that were in there that was like Led Zeppelin and like classic rock.
Well, that's nothing wrong with Led
Yeah,
Zeppelin.
we used to just play all that because it was like it had this like scratchy old turntable and had like a collection of records that was like I don't know, maybe like a foot and a half of records, and we would just play that over and over. We didn't have any of our own shit in there at all.
So you were just getting loose with your friends.
Yes. It was a crazy scene. Sometimes the professors would come and party with us. It was crazy. That's how I met my wife.
She was your professor.
Her professor wanted to come party with us like the last day of school
And
ever. And she like wandered in, and I was like, oh my God, it's that hot girl I always used to see on campus, and she's always so busy.
and she's still pretty much the same.
Yeah, she's very similar. She doesn't have blue hair anymore.
And so
But-
so w- was sh- so that
But
was,
she got me into electronic music.
so that was a pretty big turning point in your
Yeah.
life. So you're still together now,
We are.
happily.
20-some years now, 20 years. We had our relationship equinox last year.
What does that mean?
Means we were together as long as we were not together.
Wow.
20 and
I
20.
never heard of that before.
We made it up, I think.
I wonder. I never. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
She's very nice.
She's the best.
And
She keeps me sane and also insane at the right amount.
and so this woman walks into
Yeah,
girl. At
she was
this
a
point.
girl,
So
yeah.
20 years old, 21.
21. Just turned 21.
So
in August.
she walks in and you're just like instantly in love, or did it
Yes.
develop over time?
No, I was instantly in love.
And her.
I was
she's
in love with
same-
her when I didn't know who she was. And I was
Oh.
always like, who's this mysterious creature who's always like going somewhere? Because it was so idle and like everyone there was just like
doing,
fucking around.
and she's doing something.
She's doing stuff. And I'm always like, who's that girl who's in a rush?
You're like, that's weird.
That's crazy. And
She's-
she's like, I
she's
had
fu-
5 jobs, bitch. That's why I had to afford that shit.
Damn.
Yeah, she was like an internet tycoon in like her senior year of college.
So you met her and
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, check out this Richie Houghton, or I don't know. what
No,
she's
we
into.
basically just started like hanging out, and I was on my way to move to Europe for graduate school.
Oh.
And so I was like, this is foolish. This is a dumb thing to get into a relationship, whatever. But we just sort of like gave it a chance.
Yeah.
And you know, all this stuff happened. But like eventually she moved to Amsterdam with me. And like we had all these like, I'm not really telling it correctly, but we had all these like ways of constructing our lives that Teresa didn't have to be far from me. That's my wife. So she took a job in England for a little
So
while.
that's pretty close to Amsterdam.
It's close to Amsterdam. So we used to like travel back and forth, and she started getting me to go to like Fabric when it first opened.
Okay.
That was the first time I went to like a real club,
And you're like-
basically,
And-
as like a person who was aware of what was going on.
And what did you think about that?
I thought it was
And-
amazing.
who do you remember who you saw?
Yeah, we saw Talvin Singh.
Whoa, that's that brimful of Asha.
Yes, it was.
Brimful of
Was
Asha.
that it?
Yeah, and the 45.
Was that Talvin Singh?
it?
I don't think so. It was. He was like a tabla tribal
Yeah.
techno. Huh?
Yeah,
Anyway.
isn't it?
I-
He
I
had
don't
like
know.
a crossover pop hit.
Huh.
Maybe.
I missed the crossover part, but I do know that song. I didn't know it was his song.
I think that's him. Is it? I could, no, or I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure
the
that's it.
timeline fits.
This is one of those things where I'm
Yeah.
going to embarrass myself because this is like permanently on the internet.
I
You
know,
said
we have to
you
Google
said
it.
the wrong
We're gonna have
song.
to Google it.
No, we're gonna wonder about it, and I'm gonna be wrong.
We're definitely gonna Google it. But yeah, so we saw Talvin sing, and I don't know, I just got into it.
And what?
She was always into
was he
parties
just
and
DJing
stuff.
or he was playing live there?
I have no idea what was going on. That shit was crazy. It was like fucking whatever year,
All right.
1999, 2000.
One of those.
Like
One of
the
those
first,
days.
like the first week Fabric opened. But I will say that we did wait in line for hours and nobody complained.
Yeah.
People now, they complain, oh, I had to wait in line to get into a party for 20 minutes. I'm putting it on Facebook. I'm like, well, back in my day, we had to there was no Uber. We had to pay so much for a taxi.
And then you have to wait for the
You
train to
don't-
start in the morning.
Yeah. Or take a night bus, which is like full of people
Nah.
vomiting
Nah.
in England.
Nah.
So, yeah, we would wait in line for this club. But, yeah, Teresa used to go to everything. She used to go to, like, the Fridge. She used to go to, like, Psytrance nights, like, all this stuff. So then when I went back to Amsterdam, I started clubbing.
And what was cool in Amsterdam?
Horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, it was like
It was
mellow
it was like
house.
an all-you-can-eat buffet, and everything was shit on it. It was like progressive or whatever. So the big clubs were like the It, and I used to go to Matzo. That was my club. I used to go almost every weekend, which was like Steve Rashmad, Steffi,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Techno. Yeah, and I finally just started to like get it.
Like people that were, you're like, oh, all right.
Oh, and then somehow around that time, I think via my friend Nikita, who is like a catalyst for all kinds of things, we discovered this CBS forum, Cybernetic Broadcasting System. He was like, "Oh, you're in the Netherlands. You should start checking out these Dutch electro guys." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird. I don't know what that is." And so we just got so into it.
Well, because there's a big separation between Amsterdam and
The Hague.
and Rotterdam.
Yeah.
For whatever.
I never went to
whatever reason.
Rotterdam.
Yeah.
I still haven't gone to Rotterdam.
No, you're not missing that much, but
No.
it's
They used to have some really good clubs. They used to have this club called Now and Wow that looked like it was really good, but I was always too afraid to go because I had to go by myself.
it's kind of it's a lot more mixed place. It's like a much more. It just seems like more open-minded, even though Amsterdam would say they are, but
No.
it's more mixed crowd
Yeah.
and a little more. I think it's like students, more studenty, and not as many. They're Dutch, but they're not like Dutch.
Yeah. Provincial.
Yeah, I don't know.
No offense.
I don't know what that
Dutch
means,
people,
but
yeah, they like tolerate you so they don't have to engage. You know? Sorry, that's a little harsh, but that's how I feel.
here we're starting now. Now we're starting.
Now we're starting.
All
But
right.
yeah, so I went to all those places, and then we started. Me and my wife started going to all of the Dutch guys stuff, like Danny
So this
and Org Electronique. Every time they played, we started going, and we were like these weird Americans, and nobody would talk to us at all.
they probably didn't talk to anybody.
They didn't talk to nobody. Talked to anybody. It was like the most awkward rooms, but the music was like
Yeah.
so good. We used to see Bangkok Impact, all that shit. So yeah, that's what we did, and then we had to move back to the U.S.
And so you both finished school,
Yeah, I got a master's degree in philosophy in Amsterdam.
and you're supposed to go to law school or something. No?
Well, I signed up to do a PhD, and like I very quickly realized that was a horrible mistake, and I dropped out. I was like, "What am I doing? This is a total nightmare."
And your wife, you're not married at this point.
We were not married. We got married when it became legal, whenever that was.
Okay, and she got a real degree or something.
She didn't get a degree in Amsterdam. She
was in London.
She's been working this whole time.
So
Like
she's
she-
a web.
She's a web person, so she can kind of get jobs wherever, especially then.
Yeah.
So she was. We were all working at this like kind of expat comedy show situation where she was doing the like design, and her like her designs of these like weird comedians would be like on the tram and everywhere. This like huge shit, and I would sell tickets on the street, but I was like amazingly good at it and would make so much money. And they used to pay me in cash, so I just had all this money for like a couple of months.
But that's when you came back here. No.
That was when I was in Amsterdam.
Okay, so you're selling comedy tickets for.
I
her.
was one of those people that was like, do you want to go to a comedy show? Like around popular tourist. I was a tout. I was a freaking tout.
I don't know that. It's a new vocabulary word. For
Yeah,
me.
it's like somebody who's like, do you want to take the tourist bus.
I just call them hustlers. So.
Yeah, I was a hustler. Hello. But I was really good at it. Like, I got to this point where people used to like give me stuff. I was like, no, I'm trying to sell you shit. And then I would come home with like Grateful Dead CDs and Bibles and all this random
Sandwiches.
Amsterdam shit. Like, all these dumb hippies would just be like, oh, wow, man, here. And stuff at me, like patches and stickers. And so I was really good at that. But then the comedy show became unfunny. And I couldn't sell it anymore because it was really funny at a point. We used to have Jordan Peele on there, Seth Meyers. Like, when I was doing it, it was funny as hell. And so I was like confident that people should go to it.
Yeah, it's much easier to promote when you.
Oh yeah, I cannot sell something I don't believe in.
Yeah.
That's like the crux of me. So I was like, oh, I gotta peace out. I gotta peace out of the situation, and it just got more and more grim and less funny.
So that means you stayed for a little while after you finished school and did
yeah,
that?
I was afraid to come back to the States because I had this whole reality where I like hadn't lived in the States, and I was like living in Amsterdam.
So you missed the whole 9/11 thing.
I missed 9/11. Teresa was here for 9/11, and then after that, I convinced her to move to Amsterdam with me because the economy crashed. It was just so depressing.
Yeah.
Everything was awful, so I convinced her to move out. So yeah, I was just avoiding America because it just seemed so dark.
And so when did you finally decide?
I came back in 2004.
So that's post Electroclash. You missed that.
I missed almost all of Electroclash.
And so this is the beginning of it's still fashion party, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, I mean that's when I kind of started to meet you in New York at like Tribeca Grand and stuff. Was that then?
Probably. I mean, we started doing that in 2001 or 2.
So I was coming to that. It was like with Ulysses used to do so. Did you do it together?
No, he did. He did other stuff. He would do. He was the first person I remember bringing like a IF and stuff. But that might have been before 9/11. It might have been 2000 or early 2001.
IF came in 2001.
Yeah,
I remember. But I wasn't here.
Oh, because I remember I went. He played once at Fun, and it was like normal. And then he like played at that weird. On Bowery Street, is it called Bowery Bar? And there's like a basement he played in.
I don't know.
And he started playing and like these guys came in with bongos and started playing along and he like took the record off and like packed his stuff and left.
Oh my god, that's so good.
I was like, this dude's awesome.
Yo. God, he should have stayed with the bongos. Come on.
I don't know. It was appropriate.
It was very in character.
It was very like, what is it? It was weird. The whole thing was weird. So that, all right. So
that whole time in New York was just everyone, I'm sure on this podcast or whatever is like that time in New York was weird, but like it really was weird. There was like nothing, but there was also everything, and none of it made any sense. And I don't know who was paying for any of it because there was so much open bar. Yeah. Oh my god, I just have like we used to be like, oh, Williamsburg, that's where we go to like get so drunk we barf on the street.
Because the liquor sponsors were everywhere.
Oh my god, it was the only thing that was happening was free booze. It was crazy.
Well, that was the beginning.
Your party had mad free booze.
The beginning of Williamsburg being a club destination, like Galapagos.
Yeah, I used to go to Galapagos.
Opened, North 6th opened. There was another place on Bedford called like Red and Black or something like that.
I don't remember that.
It was like right around the corner on Bedford, and then I don't know what it is now.
I used to party at the Music Gallery on Ann Street.
Oh,
that was
another
freaking spot.
You know what I found?
Shout out to Jean. Thanks for the Music Gallery.
There was another. I don't know who's John.
Jean is just this really like all over behind the scenes kind of
guy. I found out later. I don't know if this is true or not, but that us or whatever raver people or whatever we did parties. Someone sent me a flyer the other day. It was like me, Overdose, Chupacabras, Veronica.
I was at that.
Cowboy Mark. And
at the was at the Music Gallery. I was totally at that. Was BMG on that lineup?
I don't know. It probably.
I believe he was.
Something weird. It was just like, that's weird. But for us, it was totally
so
normal.
Fun. But that place was so fun. You could like marry a goat at that party.
No, I heard that our rave. I don't know if this is true or not. This is another thing that I'll probably be lying on the internet again. But that our rave was a front for, there was like a sex party going on behind. There's like a bookcase that you could go in this other room.
I mean, that would make sense because there was a lot of really freaky people at that
and they would like come out of nowhere. There was like some extra room and it was
I
like
would
this,
not
like,
be surprised to
I
hear that. There was like a weird bathtub in a cage. Do you remember that?
No, that's what I'm saying. There was like, sometimes these other rooms would be open and you go in and you'd be like, this isn't a raver party.
Yeah, I saw some really crazy stuff at that place.
One time I remember,
but not really sex stuff, just crazy.
I had another one. I don't know how I got the gig, but I had another DJ gig, and I was just supposed to play the music, and it ended up being like this like Mary Kay thing, like
like the
like selling stuff to your friends,
like the.
but it was for sex toys.
Oh, I actually remember that
I
zone.
don't know. And oh, you know what club I was trying to think of the other day is there was one on, maybe you weren't here.
Mm-hmm.
It was on St. Mark's, and that was a big Ulysses and Satamali kind of place. I think that was when they
I
were
don't
gone.
remember that. I don't remember ever doing electronic music on St. Mark's.
It was like a place that had like blue lights and like white furniture. I can't remember.
Did you
the
used to
name
go
of
to Centro Fly?
Josh would try to get me to go, but it was not really my. It was like Sasha and Digweed.
It was
and
very commercial, but it was still pretty lit. I
Yeah,
used
I
to go
mean,
to that.
what I don't. I wasn't. I came into electronic music like differently. Like I was more like in high school. I was listening to like Can and Kraftwerk, but I would be listening to the weird ones. I wasn't listening to like the pop. And I knew about Throbbing Gristle and stuff like Chris and Cozy before I knew about techno. Like I came into it that way. So this commercial DJing thing, like I never had a good experience with it. Like in San Antonio, it was like if you were a raver, you were like a candy raver. You wore like those big ass pants and like sucked on a fucking thing, and I just wasn't into it. So
Yeah, I wasn't into it.
even when I lived in San Francisco in the 90s for a little while, and that was also raves apparently going around all the time, but I didn't. I wasn't interested. I was going to these like experimental, whatever, violin player with an echo pedal, like some stuff like
Oh my
that.
god, like intolerable.
So when I came here and I would start, New York for some reason there's like a DJ, it's like a disco town, so you become more open minded to this stuff. And Josh moved here like a year or so after we came, and we were doing street team and we would promote those parties.
Oh my god, you would like
We were-
if they gave your flyer to the door, you got $1 type of situation, or more like you got paid hourly.
No, they would ship the flyers to our house, and I had a car, so we would drive around and drop them at all the record stores and just go record shopping all day.
I kind of always wanted to be one of those like people that you got $1 if they put your flyer at the door. I was like, man, I bet I would be good at that too.
No, I mean, but that was kind of how I started going to those clubs. Like I didn't know. I was like, what is this Central Fly? Like, there was some awful stuff though, but I couldn't.
Yes, there was awful stuff. But it was like I feel like I didn't know any better. Like I had no standard to judge it by. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's not Fabric or like Danny Wolfers in a weird warehouse in Amsterdam with nobody talking to each other, but it's what they have here.
But I do remember that one of the first. I think I don't know if I ever went to like raves or anything, but the first time I remember is right after we moved here from San Francisco. I guess it was like '99, and one of the guys we knew from San Francisco had been going out there to like buy huge quantities of weed from this construction worker guy that we lived with. Just weird stuff.
Oh yeah, you used to have to do all kinds of weird stuff.
Sorry, Mom. But then we came back here, and he invited us to this party, and it was up in Harlem, and somehow he owned an entire like rundown hotel. It was like a huge building with a fence around it with its own private security, and he had these like raves that would go all night, and it would be like there was like a dance room, a rock room, a hip hop room, and then like his penthouse hotel with like leather couches.
Whoa,
and like
that sounds fun as hell.
drug zone. And I remember going there, and I was just like, I had no idea how I ended up there, and or like I would also end up at like Limelight or stuff like that, and I didn't know who was playing or any of that stuff. I wasn't in the boom boom.
I mean, I knew people in college who used to do that whole like club kid thing.
Yeah, no,
I always thought it was awful.
I missed it.
No, I mean now I'm actually more interested in it like culturally because it was.
Was it awful though?
I mean, the people that I knew in college who were into it were all awful.
Yeah, that's what turned me off too.
Yeah, like they were all just not people I want to be like in it to win it with. But Teresa said she used to go to some of that stuff, and it was just very young.
Yeah.
Like they used to let in just like teenagers.
I didn't like it because it was always so drug focused. Like you would go and everybody would be on ecstasy, and I'd be like,
yeah,
I don't want to look like these people.
No.
Making these weird faces. So I'm like, I'm not a part of it.
Yeah, no, it was like scary at the time in a way.
Yeah, and so whatever. That was a little bit of an aside.
Yes.
You 2004. So you're back in New York City.
I'm going to music gallery.
Did you have a job in music yet, or did you? When did?
What did I have? No, I didn't have a job. I was living off student loans, allegedly getting a PhD, and like literally being an idiot. about everything that involved life decisions.
So but you were
I was just drifting and avoiding being an adult
going out.
and going out. Yeah.
And did you go to the bunker party then?
No, I used to
think-
hate bunker because I really hated Subtonic because it smelled bad and had rats.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It was really gross. Like
But I like those little booths though.
everyone liked those little booths, but I was just like, like to this day I'm like a real snob about like bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I understand.
So Brian used to have to like chase rats and clean up dead rats before the party, blah blah blah. So what actually started getting me back into bunker was Detroit because we went to Detroit for the Fusion Festival thing, and then we missed the next year because we were so broke. But then in 2006 we went back and we kind of like stumbled into this IT party that's interdimensional transmissions, and Derek was playing, Derek Plasleko, and he just like blew our minds to such an extraordinary degree.
So you had a moment.
I had a moment. Derek playing Moscow Disco at like 7 a.m. on Monday in Detroit.
Nobody
in
plays that
2006.
song anymore.
Yeah, well, Derek will play it if you ask,
Okay.
probably. So
I'm not gonna ask anybody to play.
I'll ask him for you.
I'm not gonna.
You're like,
go
I don't
out.
wanna hear that
I'm not gonna
song.
go out anyways.
You're like, I don't want to hear that song like that
No,
song.
I do want to hear that song.
Well, we can play it after the show.
Oh.
You can play it on Spotify.
I don't have Spotify.
Me either.
Okay.
But yeah, so we saw Derek, and then we realized that he was a resident or whatever at the bunker. And Teresa was like, "Great, now I can get Michelle to go to the bunker again, even though it smells."
Well, so a little bit of history about the bunker before it was at.
It was in a basement on Norfolk Street at Subtonic, and
which was the place below Tonic, which was like a free jazz.
experimental, yes, which I also was not interested in.
No, but for some reason, there was no. It was kind of a crossover for me. When I noticed it, it was a crossover with the other music, kind of this whole
Yeah.
like CD IDM. It was like
Oh yeah, IDM.
IDM was being played there, so I was like, oh, they would play like these like schematic records or these.
Yeah,
weird-
Schematic was huge for bunker.
Or like maybe not Kid 606, but similar.
Alpha 606.
I don't know. But that's electro.
Oh
But I mean, like some of this glitchy stuff, this whatever. I don't know what.
yeah.
it's
Well, I
kids-
wasn't super interested in that
Yeah.
much either. But then like when I heard Derek, I was like, Derek brings a party. Like he can make dead people dance. You
Yeah,
know, he's
yeah.
just like when Derek playing like the bartenders and the you
Yeah.
know the coat check people are dancing.
If you make the bartender happy, it's good.
Yes. So I just got really into Derek, and through that, I kind of like found all of the rest of those like Detroit DJs that mostly now I'm their agent.
And so this happened over until 2010. This kind of developed, and did you how?
And then I started having a series of kind of like random jobs. Like I'm always like extremely like people see I'm capable and just give me a random job. Like I've done so many strange things. Like I worked like a child care foster agency thing for a while. Which is great practice for being a booking agent because I can like handle all kinds of like very strange mental states and people who have to be very much directed towards goals.
Wow.
Yeah, it was mostly actually a scheduling job. So that was really great for where I've ended up. Scheduling.
So, do you remember any other things? So this Derek Plasleko, I remember when I asked you, or we were texting a lot when I asked you to do this, and you said you had some good stories before that because you've gone to a lot of parties, you've seen a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and I don't remember exactly what you mentioned, but you said you had some things like that you wanted. I don't know if you wanted to talk about them, but I'm going to ask you about them. But you said you saw some stuff, and do you remember what that was?
Like music stuff that I saw?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
acts?
Before we get into your career, I just want to. Do you remember some good stuff you saw, like that we could shoot for these days, like some really good ones?
At the bunker?
No, just in general.
Um,
Weird historical ones. If that's too hard of a question, we don't have to.
Yeah, that's like it's all kind of like a bit. I mean, I remember running into you at. I mean, this is unremarkable, but I remember running into you at Tribeca Grand, and you were like, "Why are all these people in such complicated jackets at my party?" Like it was like kind of my first memory of you. You were like, and then you played "Fly Like the Wind" by Peter Jacques Band.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
No, but I like that song a lot.
You do. It's like the weirdest thing. Like it's all kind of like a blur, but then these like moments will just like pop out as completely unforgettable, and that's one of them. Is
But that's a weird time for fashion though. Is like people had like
complicated jackets.
stupid haircuts.
Yeah, you were like, who are these stupid haircut people? Why are they at my party? And I was like, it's because of the free booze. But so stuff that I saw.
I don't don't know. I mean, do you remember any like really good stuff from that time? Because it's
Mhm.
kind of all a blur, and there's no like.
Yeah, I mean, we were. This is strange, but we were very obsessed with Matthew Deere. Me and my wife, we used to always go see Matthew Deere, and he would play all these weird things. Um, all of the minimal techno compact stuff we used to go to,
Like
which is at Canal Room or Robots or Mini Moo.
or what was that? There was a place on Banker,
Banker, yeah. What studio
Volume.
volume?
Remember that? There was
Yeah,
like
didn't that used to be like?
Michael Meyer
Yes,
and who else? What's his name? Dizzy Rascal.
Dizzy
There
Rascal.
was like a car.
Wait, what
in there.
did volume used to be though?
I don't
Like
know.
vinyl? Did it used to be?
No, I don't think it was anything. I don't know what.
I gotta Google that too. I have to
I think
Google
it's
my
like
own
I think it's like
memories.
Soundhouse now. I think
Oh.
that's like. I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly, but it's pretty close to where the lot was,
Mhm.
where it is now. I don't know.
Oh, there was Studio B.
That was another. That was and that Josh worked there.
Yeah.
And Justine D, who
Mhm.
needs to be mentioned for New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I should have her on too.
Yeah, that would be
if she
awesome.
would. I saw her at the Ministry thing.
Oh.
Should have gone to that. Yeah, I don't know if you like Ministry.
No,
but
I don't like it.
It was,
It was so good.
It was so good.
I'm glad it was good.
So good.
It's always great when like
Yeah, I was scared to see. Because Josh went. And I'm speaking about him a lot. But
Mhm.
he went to the Antifa like the
Oh.
tour before where they were like weren't doing the old. They
Mhm.
refused to play the old music.
oh no.
And so he went to that when he said
Mhm.
he was embarrassed. And he didn't even want to go to this one where they're playing only the Wax Track stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and then he saw the playlist and we like got in. He's like, dude, you have to go.
Oh,
So we like went to go.
that's awesome.
It was pretty good. But Justine D was there, and she was
Mhm.
a big part of the late '90s and 2000s New York. She's another Philly person, I think.
Really?
With
I had no idea.
Dave P. also.
I remember Dave P. Yeah.
also from Philly.
Huh. Yeah, I mean Philly. A lot of people from Philly move here.
Yeah. So
I heard Neitzer Ebb was also really good recently at
yeah,
Elsewhere.
I know that's one of those I'm scared. I'm scared to
Yeah,
see
I
them.
didn't-
I'm scared to see Front 242.
I
I'm
didn't
scared to
hear.
see New Order. I'm scared to see Depeche Mode.
I've heard Depeche Mode is good,
Yeah, I
but
know.
mostly from really super fans, so
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
I'm scared. I'd rather just go watch 101 again or something.
Yeah,
Whatever.
you should do that instead. It's cheaper and you don't have to leave your house.
So 2010 or so. You're when did let's
2010, I was like definitely a mess, so it's very much kind of a blur.
So you just were cruising along. How did you end up in the job you have now? Was that it's been what a few years
It's been
now?
since
or-
2016 now.
Oh, so not that long. So you had a rough patch.
Well, I mostly just had like a series of very random, uninspiring jobs, and made up for it by like partying a lot on the weekends. And then I got sort of too old to like maintain that. Like I just started getting much more tired,
And so how did you come to be in this job? Like you were just
well,
over it?
basically, Brian Kasanik, who's the founder of the Bunker, he
Mhm.
started to be like overwhelmed with the amount of work that he had because he has a record label. We had a radio show on Red Bull Radio for like several years. We had the parties, and he was also doing the bookings for all of the residents
Yeah.
because there wasn't much of a structure for booking agencies in the U.S.
And
So.
he's also hosting the people. When
And
they
he's
come in.
hosting. Yeah, he's also hosting artists when they come.
Yeah.
So he was basically like, I just need help, and I was like, ooh, is this a good idea? Because we're very close friends. But it turned out that it's worked out well.
So you were partying with him, and then
We were partying
one
for
night-
many years.
one night you were like, okay, I'll help you out.
Well, he was like, I think I need to hire somebody, and I was first trying to like think of somebody that he could hire. Like I was like, who could do this? But it's really like, it's hard to hire people in nightlife because a lot of people are like good at nightlife, but they're not good at spreadsheets
Yeah.
or being on time for things.
Or answering an email.
Or answering email, or they just don't have like skills. Which one of the issues is like, no offense, no seriously, like it's like you have like people who are so into music and that's all they're doing, and that's like, I'm not a musician, so I
Yeah.
don't have that like mental static of like being artistic
Yeah.
in that way, and I also am not trying to be a DJ,
Yeah.
so it's like comfortable for me because it's at a certain point you're doing this and you're a lifer and you need to find. I felt like I needed to find like a role to justify my continued involvement in nightlife as I get older.
It's
Like,
been something you've been interested in.
it's been I've been interested. I actually had a internship at a literary agency in college. I've always been kind of salesy, so it wasn't it wasn't a surprising jump.
So what was the first step that you took? And you're just like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna do it.
I was like, I'm gonna do it because my old job, my boss was just getting on my nerves,
Yeah.
and that's a whole boring story I'm not gonna go into. So I was like, I don't know, like, should I be like getting rid of this like decent paying steady job that's like sucking the life out of me to be in some like music thing with like one of my closest friends with all of the intense emotion that comes with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do it, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
I mean, it's gonna suck either way.
Yeah,
you know?
jobs suck anyway,
So we'll have
so
some good moments.
might as well like not have to like pretend to be someone I'm
Or
not.
you could at least contribute to something that you like.
That yes, and the relief of not having to like pretend to be someone you're not at work is actually incalculably valuable to me.
Yeah.
That has been one of the biggest
Well, I'm happy for you. That's
thank
good.
you changes for me in my life is that I don't have to like maintain this illusion of
So you're
normalcy, which
you're-
is very stressful for me.
sorry to
do.
interrupt you.
No, go
they're
ahead.
they're so you're immediately become a booking agent, or you're
No, I was
what's the
doing. I was
first-
like a label assistant. I was just like the person who was just doing all the office stuff. I was taking care of all of the, just like everything random in the office that Brian was like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to deal with this. And I actually started paying a lot more attention. He does not really like doing bookings. It's very
Yeah.
tedious.
But when you say bookings, it's like for the party here, or
No, for the artists,
So-
it's finding them the bookings and then like booking their travel, finding
and how did
all the logistics.
how did these artists end up on Bunker, New York? They're
Because they were mostly our residents, and we started getting requests for them other places. And Brian has had this like happen to him a few times actually in his career, where he's like sort of ended up doing bookings for people who play at his parties a lot because people ask him. So he used to like set up little tours for people like
okay.
like Boston, Philly, SF, LA. Like he's been doing that for a long time, but it's not something that you can kind of like do part time. Like you really cannot be a part time booking agent because it's 24 hours a day,
yeah.
7 days a week.
So
So I started paying a lot of attention to bookings because it's like where
but that's weird. I mean, so instead of him just passing off the email of that person, he decided to
He just made me the booking
take the role
agent.
as an agent.
he made it. Because a lot of the artists are like, it's not a good idea for most artists to negotiate on their own behalf.
Yeah, because they get no money.
They get no money, and like they're just so happy that, especially when they're younger and newer, like they're so happy that someone just wants to hear them play, which is awesome, and I absolutely support that. But like, there has to be a balance between them being compensated for their effort, not just the 2 hours that they're playing their set, but like the lifetime of preparation that goes into some of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So there's a balance that needs to be struck, and most artists are very bad at negotiating for
I
themselves.
mean, it makes if you're going for $300, it sounds pretty good. Like, oh, I got to go to Portland and get $300.
Yes.
But then you realize, like,
The guy who's throwing the party is making like 10 grand.
yeah, and also you got to get home and pay your rent, and you just
Yes.
missed your work at your job for the past 4 days.
And you were on a plane for 12 hours and you were delayed, and like nobody is picking you up at the airport because you didn't think to ask.
And then you got to take 2 Ubers, and that's $100.
Yes. And you didn't negotiate that. And I mean, it's like, I feel like booking agents are almost like the most hated role in dance music because it's like there's a lot of negative perceptions on both the artist side and the promoter side, which is like, it's totally fair.
for some.
For some,
Some are
or
be- some are better than others.
sometimes for me it's fair too. Like I can be a terrible bitch, but like I try not to sell anything I would not buy myself.
And so, do you remember the first? Initially, you're just helping out with the label, so you're like, oh, I gotta set up the band camp, and
Yeah, I used to do all the band camp. I
Make
still
sure-
write the one sheets, most of them.
so you're doing
I
all
do a
the,
lot of the writing stuff that has to do with Bunker.
doing the press and
Yeah.
and contacting the record stores, and
with Rush Hour is our distro. So
you just have one distributor.
Rush Hour and Forced Exposures are
That's it.
domestic.
So I think Force Exposure is a good choice for
Yeah.
the U.S.
I was doing all of that label stuff, but actually, like the booking agent work has so eclipsed my available time that I just had to say I can't do this anymore because I'm making mistakes. Like
Plus,
I'm starting to make.
records don't sell.
No.
Or
We
it-
have very small pressings.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, if you're selling 300 copies, even if you sell them all at retail, you're just
Breaking even.
you're making a little bit, but no.
It's
Yeah, it's
tough.
close. It's
Record biz.
everybody
tough.
I've talked to, and this is it's just said that it's down. Like it's like a third of what it was even 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, it's like everyone filled up their shelves. Look at these shelves; they're full. Where are you gonna buy some records? What are you gonna put in
I
them?
just steal them from work.
Yeah, see, that's not
but I'm not buying new records. There's
Yeah.
too much. It's if I do buy a new record, I can usually like trade for it. And
Mm-hmm.
plus, there's so much new stuff that it's hard to. There needs to be a little more filter with these labels. They need to.
Yeah.
You can't just put out someone's first track they made. Maybe develop it a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
like I know you just learned Ableton and you're stoked you made some Acid House, but
Mhm.
come on, you know.
Let it marinate a little.
Yeah, just to put a little effort into it.
Yeah. I mean, I
It's
feel like we have this situation where
just
we
because you
have
made
a.
a track doesn't mean it needs to be released.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's true. If I made a track, I would never
I'm
want it to
guilty
be
of it.
released.
I'm guilty of it too, but I realized after a while that I shouldn't just stop.
But your tracks get played.
Not that much, but I slowed down.
Derek plays them.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay.
Overdose made that whole song. I was just there.
You were just there. Your name's on the label.
Yeah,
Your name's on the
I
record.
didn't-
It's
I
your
didn't do
track.
anything. I didn't do anything.
That was one of the moments that I will never forget.
I just making coffee.
Was hearing your track. I was like,
Oh.
"This is Willie Burnson's Overdose track,"
Yeah.
and then I sent you a Snapchat of it,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and you were like, "What?" It was a great Snapchat.
All right. So yeah. Sorry. So.
That's all good.
So you're over the record. You're not over it, but it's
I just don't have time
it's
to
not
like
work. It's not work.
maintain.
Your valuable work is not being
Well,
paid for by record sales
I guess
anymore.
yeah. I guess if you look at it that way, it is a little bit like that. But it's
It's
mainly the
it's
amount
a
of
business.
It's mainly the amount of hours there are in a day versus what the amount of tasks I need to do. And when it comes down to prioritizing it, like the immediacy of the gigs that are coming up in the next weekend or the next month or in the next 6 months, like you always have to be thinking ahead. And so it's,
So how many artists are you handling at this point?
I feel like I have like 13
Holy shit!
or something. I haven't counted recently.
And are all 13 of them full time?
Quite a
DJs?
few of them are full-time DJs.
So
So
you take any gigs they're open for. There's not like this is my window and fill it up, or is it?
Some of them are like that. I have some overseas artists that come on tours or they come for a weekend. I find that to be fun to work on because then you get to like fill up the day. It's like a little Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean it's easier because you have a
set
constraints.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm really open to like whatever. Like I'm really happy to like develop these smaller city scenes because like young people want to live in smaller cities now and they can't afford New York, they can't afford LA, can't afford
Yeah.
SF. So all these like smaller cities are now like I'm getting requests from places I never thought of, like Phoenix and Chattanooga, and
Yeah, but it's cool too because you know
it's so cool. I
Yeah.
love talking to these
Yeah.
people, and a lot of them come to our parties, and so it's really this like amazing feedback of people that are like, I saw these guys at your party or these girls, these women, and I want to like bring them to my town and
Yeah.
recreate what I've experienced and bring it to do this educating the people around me, and so it grows, you know.
I wonder. I mean, I always feel like
Mhm.
there's cycles and stuff. I wonder if if
Mhm.
the young people are going to start. It seems like now I've noticed it
Mhm.
with skateboarding is that it's cool now to be like you're like a country boy. You know, you're like from the
Yes.
you go to Arizona. You live in
Mhm.
you know eastern Oregon or something. You know these places are starting to become cool now. It's like because for so long it was like when you grow up you move to New York or you move to LA.
Yeah, I mean, we had to. When I just remember when I was like younger, I would read like Paper Mag and be like, "Oh man, one day I'm gonna move to New York City." Like it was like the goal for
Yeah.
everybody who was really freaky and also ambitious and like had some kind of viewpoint that they wanted to like do something. Everyone was like, "My goals are New York."
Yeah, but
In the East Coast, especially.
I hope
And
it
now it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive.
Well, I feel like people get like kind of like stroppy about this, like, oh, the internet provides access to everyone to anything, and there's no more like gated freak scenes or subcultures. But I think it's amazing that people can like live anywhere they want and have access to anything they want and like create whatever visions.
What was that? But you used this word stroppy. What was it?
Stroppy, it means like crabby.
Okay. Sorry, I have to stop people when I don't know the word.
Thank you for asking.
Stroppy. That's a good one.
Crabby.
Spelt like it sounds.
Yeah, STROPPY. It's like little children get stroppy,
Like cranky.
cranky.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I've never heard that word,
Oh.
or I've never
It's like a
noticed it
British
before.
word. Sorry.
Stroppy.
Stroppy, British
yeah,
word.
I don't know what's going on. I'm not as in touch anymore because
Mhm.
I don't really go out as much. That's why
I don't go out as much as I used to
I
either.
started podcasting.
Yay.
But I don't know what's going on with I hope that it goes to because me in
Mhm.
traveling now, I find that I have a much better time when I go to the smaller cities
Mm-hmm.
because it's just like I don't know, they're more free. They don't have they're not as tied down by going to work, and here it seems like everybody has to get it all in. So when they go there, they go so hard. They're gonna do all the drugs and do all the drinking and stay out and get sick and stuff like that. But there it seems still a little bit healthier, like a
Well, I think in general, like life outside of New York City, like New York City is like a, I don't even know.
battleground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, rent is really,
Rent
really,
is just too damn high.
it's really
It's too damn
true.
high.
Like just every month that when I try to
Yes.
pay my rent, I have to shift money from all my bank accounts
Yeah.
and PayPal and
I mean, everyone has to do this like crazy, like what is it even, like juggling all of your finances? Like you can't pay them all of the bills at once because it's just too much. I mean, I don't think that's only in New York that that's happening. Like rent is really high almost everywhere.
yeah.
But places like Orlando and Chattanooga, it's like some of the people that I work with there, they're quite young, but they're all just really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And I guess sometimes they say that like, like bigger agencies won't even really like follow up with them or something. But I think that increasing,
Yeah, that's the future.
yeah, and the visibility. Like I have a lot of like queer artists, and like I feel like it's really meaningful for all of the community when they go somewhere that they haven't. Maybe some people there don't really see queer, open
Yeah. Like,
people.
as the head of the party.
Yeah, and or women or people of color. Like I think it's good, to see a wide variety of DJs just like playing
Yeah.
in their smaller towns.
And
You know.
so I don't know. I mean, that sounds like something that we should talk about, but I don't. For me, it's a tricky subject for someone like me to talk
Yeah.
about. So I'm not sure how I would even enter that conversation. And it also bothers me that I'm not even allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucked
Well,
up?
you just can't really
Well, I can't say
speak for
anything.
others.
No, I can't.
Because you're in a.
But I also can't say what I think.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's kind of weird to
Yeah.
me, but that's just how it is right now. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's a good thing, and I guess the thing that I'll just say it
Mhm.
anyways. The thing that bothers me is that I don't know when these people. See, I can't even say that
Mhm.
they weren't allowed to be in the scene. I don't remember that time.
Well, I think that.
And is that's just from my perspective, I guess. It's a
Yeah, but
problem.
I feel like that actually has to do with like us growing up in a very like a pretty diverse
Yeah.
cultural landscape. Like there's a lot more reaction now to like atomization and like self-selecting small cultural groups and stuff. Like I feel like in a way we didn't really either it wasn't talked about or it wasn't acknowledged. But New York used to just be like we had to party with everybody because there wasn't enough people. Like people would complain about a crowd at like a certain venue, and I'll just be like thinking about the people that we used to have at Bunker, and we all had to party together because there was so few of us.
Yeah.
And even if you weren't familiar with the cultural background of someone, or you didn't, I don't know, they pinched your ass. Like it wasn't. I can't really explain it. It was just like there wasn't this choice factor.
Yeah. I don't. It's a tricky
Yeah,
subject.
I
to
mean, I'm
talk about.
anyone who wants to have a good time. I am like super down with.
Yeah,
So
I don't. Come
that's
on,
my
come to the
zone.
party.
Come to the party. Like if you like the music, get really into it, dance really hard. Like get confused about where you are in time and space.
Oh, geez. All right. Let's talk about.
We're getting philosophical now.
No. This. I'll drink a little wine.
Drink
She told me you were talking about wine being called sad juice.
Yeah, wine makes me sad. Alcohol makes me sad
So
if I drink
you're
it.
just gonna
I had a
drink
pina colada yesterday, and I was like crying by 2 p.m. today, like from like one pina colada at the Rockaways. So
but they're so good.
I know there's Connolly's pina coladas.
You got to get the virgin one, I guess.
No, but I don't get the extra shot put in it, like the floater or whatever. They're always like, "Do you want a floater?" I'm like, "No."
I had a problem when I had a problem with. I saw. I used to DJ at Plant Bar, and they had a margarita machine and a pina colada machine.
Did you just put your mouth like around?
I mean, I would drink them a lot, but then one day I saw them making it,
Oh yeah, I've seen them making it.
And-
It's super gross.
and I was like, I'm not drinking this anymore. It really
it's
bummed me out.
so gross. It's like a slurry.
It's some kind of weird, like it's
Bucket.
like from like the Subway meatballs.
Yes. You don't want to know how your pina colada gets made, Will.
No, and then you like start thinking like a soda machine, how they had that weird like mold, but then you're like, pina colada molds. Like I bet there's some in there. I don't know. So
And once you start thinking about maraschino cherries, ooh boy.
I'm not eating. I don't eat those.
Oh, I
I get
definitely
so
do.
bummed out when you get sushi and there's like a maraschino cherry like on
What?
it. I'm like, why
Where
is-
are you getting sushi?
I don't know.
Greenpoint. That's how they do sushi in Greenpoint.
Chinese people they make it.
It's maraschino cherries have no place in sushi. Will.
Or lettuce. There's always like a piece of kale or lettuce. I just
Oh yeah, the kale is
I
unnecessary.
need like a refuse plate. I found out. I found out that they used to, at Pizza Hut buffets,
Mm-hmm.
that they only used to use kale as the decoration.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Around the thing. They
Mhm.
wouldn't serve it as food.
Mm-mm. The kale as decoration was like such a thing.
That's weird.
I mean, it's very decorative.
All right, so let's talk about booking agency drama.
I mean,
Are we allowed? Oh, but we have to. We'll tread lightly, so as you don't lose any money.
No, I definitely don't want that to happen. But
So-
it's mainly just like spreadsheets and booking flights.
So, but now this
Mm-hmm.
booking agents, I didn't. They kind of started in, or not. I started noticing them maybe in 2008 or 2009 with like the Windish agency.
Yeah,
like-
Windish
like
used to be
Adult or
huge.
something.
They got bought by like some even bigger, like Paradigm or
Oh.
some shit.
And then, so what? Where did this stuff come from? It's just
Mhm.
because this kind of music became a bigger business. Do you think?
Yeah, it has to be like financially
Or everything.
viable, I think,
So-
for booking agents to get involved. And also, like, once there's a certain amount of money involved, you definitely want a contract.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that was maybe part of the catalyst for it. And some of it maybe was part of like all that like sponsorship stuff that you were talking about, that we were talking about earlier, like brands and stuff, like liquor sponsorships. Or just more money was involved, and I think that's when agents step in.
And I mean, I don't know. Maybe we just became aware of it at a certain age or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's also quite possible.
I don't know. I mean, like, did people have booking agencies? Like, were Sasha and Digweed booking
Yes.
their own gigs?
No.
They had agencies. Well,
Yeah,
I
I mean-
guess the UK's always been pretty far ahead with the
Yeah.
business,
I mean,
music business.
all the Detroit guys had an agent.
Did they?
Yeah. Like the
Well, because they got screwed, probably.
not necessarily.
Not all of them.
No.
Some of them.
Some of them must have. It's just like a part of the. Once it becomes a business, you probably need an agent.
Yeah. So once you're booking shows every weekend and it's your job, then you probably get an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that what happened was that our friends that we knew
Mm-hmm.
took the step to where it was going to become their career.
Yeah,
So
I
they
mean,
needed agents, and so some of our friends like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
stepped up and started doing it.
yeah.
And who was your first? Do you remember what your first thing that you had to book was?
I think it was probably Servito, because we were getting a lot of requests for him in like when I started in 2016, and we had some Adam TM and Tobias did a tour, and I took care of that. Was my like first like international dudes with like standards,
Yeah.
kind of like expecting things not to be a total mess.
And that was you were organizing their tour in the U.S.
Yeah,
So-
in August of 2016,
and that. But I guess so.
and that went really quite well. They were happy with how I handled everything, and then I started to get more like, okay, I could do this. Like these are people I really admire and like respect, and they're.
What were the? Do you remember the order of the tour?
They played Bunker. I think they played SF. Possibly Boston.
So not a crazy tour, like 4 or 5 gigs or something.
No, it was 2 weekends, and it was either 3 or 4 gigs.
Okay,
Can't
so
remember.
so this is not a crazy like a
No.
where they're gonna like get stuck somewhere.
People do get stuck. I mean, that's the main thing, is that like you have to be kind of on duty all the time in case that something happens.
Because the U.S. is quite big.
The U.S. is big, and there's a lot of like flight problems.
Yeah,
and
it's terrible now.
yeah,
You have to fly direct, otherwise it's
Yeah, you-
forget about it.
and you cannot do any of these cheap airlines. Like
No.
you just got to go with like Delta or American.
JetBlue.
JetBlue isn't. They don't have a lot of.
Not a lot of
JetBlue is
options, I
50-50. Yeah,
Oh.
they're 50-50 with me.
Oh, good to know. I always liked JetBlue
I like JetBlue as well. Like as a person going on vacation.
but I guess some of the DJs want to fly in and fly out at certain times.
Yeah,
and
they want
JetBlue's
certain
not
times.
flexible.
And you also really want, you definitely don't want indirect flights. You don't want anything where your airline has no pull at the airport. All those budget airlines have no pull.
Yeah, they can't get you on
They
another
can't.
flight.
There's no other flights. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really just like don't try to save that $40. stick to one airline, get status so you can be in the lounge, get free luggage. They take care of you. They're like, yes, sir, what can I do? Yes, ma'am, I'm here for you. Blah blah blah. Like you really want to like expedite your DJ life.
And you don't use a booking agent?
No, we
I mean,
a lot of the time
travel agent. Sorry.
no, because I know everyone's preferences
Okay. So
really at like an atomic level at this point. So I prefer to do it myself because it's less like it's just as annoying to like have a travel agent where I have to like be like, no, they want the window seat, or like don't ever put them on like this specific route at this time, blah blah blah. Like I just have memorized like all of it, so it's more efficient for me to do it, even though it's time consuming.
and so most of these tours you're booking, they're
Mhm.
U.S. tours now, or you're doing both?
I
Europe,
do U.S. And Canada.
U.S. and Canada.
Yeah.
And what are the cities that most of these people are playing in now? Is there a regular route?
Everyone usually plays in SF or LA at least once a year. Philly, Boston, Detroit, Chicago, but I'm really doing Miami, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. I mean, basically all the like places with more than like 500,000 people.
But there's no like. I mean, there's still they're like Phoenix or Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm doing. I don't do much in Atlanta. I'm trying to change that. But I do a lot. I started working with this really nice guy, Edward, in Phoenix, who's really
Yeah.
sweet.
And what about there's places like the Milwaukee, Minneapolis?
I do Minneapolis a lot.
Denver, Colorado.
Denver is tough.
Yeah.
It's kind of like burnery out there. Like they don't seem like they.
They're not interested.
I don't know what it is. Like I have a hard time connecting.
Yeah. And then there's
Mhm.
Portland, Seattle.
Yeah, we do Portland,
sometimes.
Seattle. Yeah, Seattle is really nice.
Yeah.
They have some nice parties. Vancouver has amazing parties, from what
Yeah.
everyone tells me.
Canada's pretty nice in general.
Yeah, I did Edmonton.
I never.
I sent Justin Cudmore to like Newfoundland
Oh, that's cool.
recently, which was like really far, actually.
But isn't he's like a snowboarder or something, isn't he?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's his sister. Oh no, never mind.
No,
Never mind.
but he had a good time in Newfoundland.
It seems nice. It's,
He said it was really nice, but very, very small. Like it's like a city, but it's just like very small.
and what did you?
They didn't have current gear at all.
But
There
did-
was no rental, no option.
So what did he do?
I think he played on like
CDs.
XDJ,
That's okay.
like 1.0 or whatever, and like some mixer. I mean, they did what they could, and he said
Yeah.
it was a really fun party.
And what did he say? What kind of place it was, or is like a
It was like a
Elk-
bar, I think.
Elk Lodge or something?
No, we do an Elk Lodge in Boston or in Cambridge.
Boston's weird.
Boston is I feel really bad for
Oh,
Boston.
what's Aaron J is there now or something?
Aaron Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there. He's awesome.
So he was doing San Francisco for a long.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's.
But Boston has a lot of problems with licensing because they have a finite number of alcohol licenses and they will not expand it. So in order for something new to open, something old has to close, and you have to buy the old license, and it's prohibitively expensive, as you can imagine. So Boston is really their nightlife is really suffering due to
So those of you who
restrictions
in Boston that are listening, you should listen to the John Barclay episode. He got
Mhm.
some things lifted
Yes.
here, and maybe they can follow his suit.
Yeah, definitely.
His advice was, you didn't hear it yet, but he said that he didn't say it, but I took from him that
Mhm.
he got the media involved, and that was the most powerful thing that he could do,
Mhm.
because then the politicians started listening. Is that he
Mm.
got people to start talking about it, and that was slowly things started changing. So
Mhm.
maybe Boston can do the same thing.
I would hope so. I mean, Boston is a little tricky because it's so many colleges, and so
Yeah,
there's like
But
the
you
young.
would think then it'd be more.
It's hard.
open-minded.
It's like a self-perpetuating thing, though, actually, because it's like young people don't want to stay in a city without a vibrant nightlife in 2019. So Boston has a lot of people that leave because they wanted to move somewhere that's more like vital in their mid to late 20s, and it's actually something that they
Oh, it's good for them.
should be addressing, though. That
Oh. But would you say it's good for them because then the housing empties, they leave?
no,
and then
housing
new
is
people can
really
go in?
expensive there.
Yeah.
They have a lot of sort of like structural.
I don't know what's Boston's so weird.
Yeah, well, it's just small.
Yeah.
But the rent's pretty expensive from what I gather. They have like shows and stuff. I mean, but
Yeah.
like
they've
they're-
always had a big rock scene.
yeah, there's places that are open in Boston though that like we literally were playing at 20 years ago. Like Phoenix Landing has been there since we were like in our 20s, and
That's good. I guess.
like requests will come in to have someone play at this place, and Brian will always be like, "Oh, that place is still open." I'm like, "Yeah, it's still open. It's always going to be open because it can't close.
It's the only one.
It's the only option."
And okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
got
I don't know if this is exciting
I don't know either.
discussion to other people.
It doesn't matter.
You can just fast forward over this part.
There'll be a few dorks tuned in. And no, but I think people, it is interesting because I don't think anybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Well,
you know?
people are kind of like weirdly embarrassed about like money and art being combined, and sometimes in some ways, like I'm just like I think that people deserve to make a living when they've worked their whole lives for something if they're good at it, and people want to hear them.
I mean, you would think so, but the problem is that, you know, if you say that, then everybody should make money because, you know, oftentimes if you're going to these smaller scenes, you're going from experience, you're going with the promoter to the ATM afterwards, and they're like taking money out of their bank account.
Yeah.
So
usually I have them all paid in advance.
Oh, I know, but so that's not cool either. You know what I mean? Like,
but
but then you would say like, oh, they should have promoted better or whatever. But
I mean, there's an element of that sometimes. But I try to be like, what's realistic for you? Like, I start from with especially smaller promoters. I'm like, what? Like, I can't guarantee that people are going to not lose their shirts on anything, but I will ask them like, what do you feel like is a realistic?
Yeah, because I mean,
expenditure for what you have experienced in the past, and some of them are kind of like stretching to make something happen that's never happened in their place before. Like they're like, this is at the higher end of what I can pay.
Yeah, but I mean,
you know,
yeah. I mean, if you're straight with, I mean, this was like what I left my booking agency because of this. Like, I felt they were treating I've been doing it for a while, so some of the promoters are my friends.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know what the club makes, and you know, if you're going to some place in Eastern Europe where the entrance is, you know,
$5.
Yeah, you can't charge 1,500 euros. You know, it's like, so I had a problem with that, you know, and they didn't quite understand, and so
yeah, I mean that's totally valid.
We need to, you know, make sure. It sounds like you're considerate to these.
I mean,
smaller
I try.
scenes,
Like
we, like you said, we need them. You know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people still like lose money, or I feel really terrible about that if it really just didn't.
As long as they're aware of the risk and they know that's what, you know, they're.
And I'm not trying to like gouge anyone. Like I'm like, okay, like can they stay at your house? Like as long as there's like an actual bed and a door, like no couches, no air mattresses. Sorry, but as long as like a lot of these places, people they have a friend with a guest bedroom that's like. Comfortable, you know. Sure. So I'll be like, "Is that an option?" Like,
and you get like fresh baked bread.
Like you meet their cat. Like that's always good.
Yeah.
If you're not allergic, but yeah, I guess it's like definitely a balancing act. Like some of the higher paying gigs kind of subsidize the less, you know, the less profitable ones, and
so people shouldn't be scared to contact.
No.
About you know if you're in a smaller city.
Yeah.
And you want to bring one of these Bunker New York artists.
Yeah, just email Michelle with 2 L's and an E at thebunkerny.com, and I'll do my best to make it work for you.
And it's good for everybody.
For anyone.
You might be a little risky, I guess, but you know we gotta still do it out there. What do you have anything? I don't know. I don't know how if you're in a big hurry or not. We've been going for how long now? A little bit, almost an hour and a half now.
Oh God, I'm sorry, everyone. This is too much.
We're not too long. But is there anything else that you feel like that you wanted to bring up that you haven't talked about or that I missed? Or
No, I think that was it. I'm sorry. I think I talked about bookings a little bit too much.
No. I think that
I don't know if that's interesting to people.
I think it is interesting.
Well, thanks.
I mean, I wouldn't have had you if I didn't think it was interesting.
Oh, thanks.
I just want to have people that are around, and I know that they're participating in this thing and they have good intentions, and I think you're one of them.
Most of the time.
And if I see you at a party, I'm always like, yeah, all right, good.
Well, I remember you were like, you're a true freak to me one time outside one time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see people like.
And I felt flattered.
You want to see people like you at a party, and then you're like, oh, finally, someone I can talk to about whatever we talk about.
Orgone jewelry.
Yeah, whatever.
5G.
Yeah, whatever. I feel like I have to think about, like, I'm not self-conscious when I'm with you, so it's okay.
Thanks. Because I'm pretty accepting.
Yeah.
Of all kinds of.
I guess so. I don't know. You probably treat everybody
people.
like that, though.
Most people.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Not me. No. Yeah. Terrible. But, yeah, so thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for
now
coming.
we're going to go do the Joe Rogan podcast.
I know you're a little. We're going to watch some Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan after this.
But thanks. See you guys next time.
Bye. You guys are best.
Mm-hmm.